Hola. Hola, hi everyone. Hola a todo el mundo. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas a este evento en Conciencia.
To Espacio Afro, in which we have been here for 2 months, and we are really happy to host this event, Decolonizing the Newsroom, a topic that has brought a lot of interest for obvious reasons. And those who are here with this anti-racist knowledge know that media is a tool to promote racism. And so we are searching for an alternative to decolonize us. This is the reason why we are organized this. This is a project that tries to bring Afro in the center, not only because we live in the center of Madrid, but also because we want to be in the center of the narratives. Historically, Afro has always been excluded in the margins, excluded from the history. African history always starts when the colonizers arrive. But what happened before? How was Africa organized before? Socially, economically. These are things that we don't know. It's really hard to know. There's no knowledge of this in European countries. So this is why Afro Conciencia started in 2016 in Matadero, Madrid. It was an event that we organized. We did a festival called Conciencia Africo, Afro Awareness, in which Black people from the whole of Spain came to this event to speak about art, culture from another point of view. We always seem to be victims, but here we were strength. Here we're in this project, this European project, Migrants, Reframing Migrants, and we are here thanks to Themos 98, and we are really grateful for believing in us. And the objective of Conciencia Africa is to decolonize ourselves, and this is not an easy task. In the hotel where several of you are staying, one of the participants told us that it was in the Antonio Lopez street. Antonio Lopez was a slave. He was a master of slavery with black people, and he was rich thanks to that. In Barcelona, there was a campaign for many years, an awareness campaign for many years, to get rid of the name of a square that was named after him and name it after someone that died in an internment center, in a closed center for migrants. This is something that is that we lived every day. We see it in streets, in monuments, and in the border politics. Here in Spain, 2 weeks ago, 36 people were assassinated in Melilla. This happened in the borders of Spain, the south border of Europe. And because of this border politics that already last year killed many people, there was a terrible tragedy, and Spain hasn't acknowledged the event, but it has even rested importance. So there's a lot of work to do, and obviously, media has an important part in this struggle. We're going to speak about media now. There are many of us who work in the media, many of racialized people that work in media. We are the ones that are always suffering deaths, and we are always portrayed as the ones that are robbing, the ones that create insecurity in the streets of the city. And sometimes we appear as exceptions. All blacks are evil, except this guy that went to university. So to work on all of this, we decided to create this meeting, this encounter, in order to work well through writing, media, through audiovisual, to try and decolonize the news, the media, and the society. And an example here is that there are two people that couldn't make it here. It was because of their visa. For many people, obviously, visas are not a problem. They can travel through Europe, but for people that come from Latin America or Africa, it is a problem, and this is a question that is affecting us right here, right now. It is not something from the past. It's not an exception. No. In this same event, visas were a problem, the same thing as the street in which the hotel is located. So thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to start this encounter. Now I will pass the word that from the European Foundation. They're going to explain us what we're going to do here. These 3 days, we're going to have several activities. There are some public activities and some internal activities, in which we have invited also students from the university, from communication, so that they can exchange ideas, opinions, and so that we can also train future journalists. So, well, this is all for now. Thank you so much, and we see each other these days in Espacio Afro.
Welcome, everyone. I'm very glad to be in this relaxed chair because I still need to get used a bit to the heat here in Madrid. I just arrived from Amsterdam. This is Badra Zaino Mahmalat, and my name is Menna Wijs, and we work for the European Cultural Foundation, which is an independent foundation based in Amsterdam. And we were founded in 1954. And our founders were, amongst others, the philosopher Denis de Rougemont, but also Robert Schuman, who was also one of the founding fathers of the European Community for Coal and Steel, later the EU, European Union. But the founders of the European Cultural Foundation thought that Europe should be about so much more than just coal and steel. It should be about more than economic collaboration only. It should also be about a shared culture that we have on this continent. And that's why the European Cultural Foundation was founded, because culture in this post-war period was a crucial ingredient for building together a new Europe, and a Europe in which people could live together in peace and solidarity. Do we have, by the way, our presentation, or shall I just speak? I'm checking with the technical people. It's okay for me, but okay, I will continue in the meantime. So the European Cultural Foundation has this mission that stems from the period right after the Second World War, but we think this mission is now as important as it was back then. We have again a war on Europe, and it shows once more how important it is to have a continent in which we can debate our ways of living together. Thank you, Badria. And oh, sorry. Yes. So ever since those days in the 50s, the European Cultural Foundation has been supporting projects and also initiating projects that let us share, experience, and imagine Europe. Imagine is about the imagination of the future through artistic expression, for example. Experience is about this one-on-one experience, such as the Erasmus program that was developed in the European Culture Foundation and later taken over by the European Commission. And share is about European public space, because we believe that in a real democracy, people can only feel represented if they share also a public space, a space where everyone, independent of background or whoever you are, can debate and can discuss what are our common interests. And at the European Cultural Foundation, we think there's 3 very important things that need to change in this public space. First of all, it seems that media that are an important part of public space is very much organized according to national filter bubbles. This has, of course, to do with language, but also with the way legacy media, public broadcasters, big newspapers are organized. So we see everything through a national lens, but we hardly see something from the news or anything from a European perspective, which makes us very bad in understanding what people in other countries are facing. The second one is that big tech and market players are dominating the public space, especially on the internet and social media. And they have other interests than our democracy. Their only interest is to maximize the profits. And their algorithms decide what we get to see and what we watch. And this is often not the things we should see and watch in order to understand each other. And the third issue is that the media is not very inclusive. Lots of voices, such as the voices of migrants, refugees, but also many other voices, are heavily underrepresented. And this is where I come to the project this event, Decolonizing the Media, is part of. Migrants are often portrayed in media as one-dimensional characters, not as people that have different facets. They are either, as Moha already pointed out, although he was talking about black people, I'm now talking about migrants, but the pattern is similar. Either the helpless victim that needs to be looked down upon because he needs help or she needs help, or on the other extreme, the aggressive invader that comes to our country to steal or to rob. But we hardly see migrants as people that have their interests, their views, their perspectives, and as full human beings. And this has partly to do with the fact that newsrooms in Europe are dominated by people who look like me, like white men, and we rarely see the news through the perspective of migrants themselves. So we only talk in media often about migrants, but the stories migrants think are important to tell, we rarely get to hear. And that's why the European Culture Foundation applied for funding at the European Union to run a 15-month pilot project called Reframing Migrants in the European Media. And this project is addressing these issues, the fact that stories are not inclusive, so the fact that newsrooms are not inclusive. And Gabriela is going to tell more about the project Reframing Migrants in the European Media.
Thank you very much, Menno. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. And thank you again for Consenso Africa for hosting us today and for all the effort that has been made. And I'm also delighted to be here to present and go deeper on the project Reframing Migrants in the European Media. So actually, as you know, and as Menno just said, actually migration is not a new topic or a new phenomena. I mean, migration was always for human being a way to change life, to find maybe a better life. And we noticed, however, that the stories are not told actually in a good way or in a way that they are correctly told. So that's why actually and also there is also another aspect that's quite important to mention. Sometimes, as we can say, in the last few years, especially in the European Union or in many European countries, the topic of refugees and migrants are also used for political reasons. So to get more maybe electorate for campaigns and also to get more votes. And in this sense, I mean, that's two reasons for many. That's actually media has a huge impact on shaping the public's opinion. So that's why actually for us it was quite important also to apply for projects such as Reframing Migrants in the European Media and to enhance and also go deep in these issues. So as Menno just said, actually Reframing Migrants in the European Media has been launched in February 2022 for a period of 15 months with a budget around 709,000 euros. It's a co-funded project. It's also a pilot project that I think it's quite important also to mention. So during the next 15 months, we will have many experiences and sharing many stories to go deeper in this issue that we already told. And we are working with many partners, European partners actually, based in Spain, Poland, in Germany, and in the Netherlands. So, and all the partners have many experiences, not only in research, but also in the field when it comes to migration and migration in general. So we have Etikas, Co-Culture here to support, Zemos 98, Gazeta, and also ECF as a partner in this project. Thank you, Menno. So the main objective, as Menno just said, actually of the project is to change how the European media target or deal with the program of migration, and so we can use actually by using actually an inclusive and also empowered discourse that will provide a space for self-representation of migrants and also refugees. And in this, thank you, merci, thank you. And and we can actually cite actually 4 other objectives. That's quite important. So the first of it is fostering a more inclusive European public sphere by developing a mechanism that will ensure a better representation of migrants' representation. Also, a better understanding of the ways immigrants are portrayed in European media. Also, there is also another objective is to support the community to include media practices through actually trainings as well. And finally, to highlight inclusive media practices in which migrants have a position of authorship. And to achieve actually this objective, many activities and work will be implemented during the next 15 months. It started actually with the collaborative event we are attending today and for next 3 days. So basically through this collaborative event, we will discuss and go deeper in the topic of how migrants are actually represented in European media. And then we will go through, actually, we will, there is an encyclopedia that will be issued also of migration in media, so it's an analysis and more research. We will continue with the digital platform for community for practices, so this will gather media makers to provide them actually support through this digital platform. Also, an interesting activity will be the creation of tandems, so between mainstream media and community media. And finally, there will be like the innovation forum where all the best practices and the experience will be shared during these projects. During these projects. So actually that was all from my side. I hope it wasn't too detailed and too boring. I wish you all a very productive 3 days conference and fruitful discussions. Thank you very much.
Now,
Lucas, help, ayuda. That's my presentation. Esta es mi presentación. Voy a hablar en español porque creo que la mayoría.
I'm going to speak in Spanish because I think most of you understand it, but the presentation is in English, so it's a little bit for each. So you will probably saying, who's this woman? Well, I work in Por Causa. It's an organization, a media organization, research, and narratives on migration. Por Causa has been working for 10 years already. We create our own information and we try and narrate in a different way. We work with university, with media, and we mix. We work we work journalists, researchers. Suddenly there's an academic that comes and says, "Oh, I have a brilliant news for you," and sometimes people don't understand each other. And what we do is try and mix these spheres. That is why our work is so different. We organize every year the only migrant congress, the Congress on Migration in Mérida. It's near Portugal. It's a border area. It used to be the capital of the Roman Empire. It's a beautiful city. Please come. It's a wonderful congress with really interesting people that come from Africa, America, from Europe, from different parts of the world. There are journalists that speak about migrations with all the. If you're interested, please come. Please speak with me. And also, we create a magazine called Bainana, which means between ourselves. And it was created by 4 Syrian journalists that came in 2019. They are autonomous. And it's the only publication created by Syrian refugees in Spain, and probably nearly the only one in Europe. So I really recommend it. This is so that you know where I come from. And I working Por Casa. I am the director, and I am one of the creators. My expertise is communication and telling tales. I will introduce. Meno called us to see if we could very quickly do a little research on how media portray migrant people or diverse people, phenotypically diverse people. And when we spoke, I told them there's so many studies, everybody's studying this, how migration is being represented in the media. I participate already in 5 European projects, and they always ask the same thing: how are migrants portrayed in the media? So I don't think this is interesting. Let's see what is already published. But we decided to investigate ourselves too. We studied 120 media and did eight interviews with 8 researchers that are researching this, activists, researchers that are working on all these topics. We divided the markets in 4. We divided them because of the language they used for European markets. And also we added a journalist from Mali who is working here with us, Baboucar Cesar. Baboucar studied African media that are consumed in Europe to see how also these media reflect migrants. And Musa from Bainana has studied how media that is oriented for migrants is also framed in order to have a little bit more of information than what we usually have. It is really interesting. I really recommend it. These are the conclusions. We finished this in November. We presented in November. When was it, Meno? Yeah, in November. So the background, as you see, it's in English. Basically, what it says that in 1960 there was no studies of how migrants were portrayed in the media. So this is something relatively new. The only place where there were some of these studies was in the United States. It was the moment where there were all the struggles on civil rights in the US, but in Europe there were no studies of this type. In Europe, they studied Muslim people because there was a lot of Islamophobia, so the response to Islamophobia was studying if media promoted Islamophobia. But they didn't study migrants as the wider migrant collective. Okay. We have 4 archetypes. We had 7, but we reduced them to 4 because we thought they were the most relevant ones. It was best to simplify in order to understand better. From the 4, we think 2 of them are positives. But this doesn't mean that they are positive for the image of the migrant, but what they do is that they don't promote negative. Well, this is what academics decided, because I would say they're all negatives, but the academics decided to divide them in 2. The narrative that normalizes and the narrative that victimizes. They think victimization doesn't promote negative feelings against the people who they're speaking about. Then the burden of the state and threat, they do consider negative. So this is how they worked. They considered that the positive frames don't generate a negative frame. As you can see in the positive space, they don't think that they have positive effects for citizens. This is important. Why? Because the assistentialism, which has a lot of to do with post-colonialism, which means helping somebody that is worse than you. This worked in the 1980s to work with populations that were receiving migrants and worked from a charity perspective. But this is not sustainable in time. And media gets tired, and suddenly people separate themselves from people who are portrayed as the other. And you center yourself in your own problems. That is why we don't consider that victimization is positive. But it is true that it doesn't provoke hate discourse as the others do provoke. I see faces that are completely alarmed. Please calm yourselves. You can comment afterwards. Treating the positive frame is treating migrations as something that is normal, that is natural. Then there's the burden frame and the threat frame. These are the usual ones, the ones that we see the most in the media. These are the results. And this is what we saw with the different frames. This is the normalization frame, victimization frame, burden frame. There's a lot of people. It seems that they're all coming here to take away our jobs. And the threat frame. This, visually, we understand it really well, with text also. But I decided not to use the text because it was more complicated. Here we can see different images that illustrate the 4 different frames. And these are the results of the investigation, of the research. This is the preliminary research. As you can see, the difference between migrant and refugee. Refugees are portrayed in a more positive way than migrants. Migrants that are not considered refugees are portrayed more negatively. This is how media reflect migrations in the media that we have studied. This is an analysis of the different countries. Austria, Czech Republic, and Slovakia portray migrants as a threat for security and for economy. They definitely have complicated governments, and media reflects this political tension that exists. In Spain, there's solidarity with refugees and victimization. It's true that in Spain, they are represented in the exceptionality frame, in the threat in right-wing media, and victimization in other media. Italy and Greece, they are presented as a burden and as a threat, and the Greek media as a problem. And finally, in Central Europe and in Eastern Europe, as a threat for security and for economy. So as you can see, in general, it is very negative. Nothing new, we already knew it, but this consolidates this knowledge that we already have. This will all be available. This study will be available. And with this, I will finish. As you can see, these are the different axes that differentiate the 3 countries that are more representative of the Mediterranean entry. In Spain, we're in victimization. In normalization, it is very low for all of us. In threat, we are quite low also. And in Greece, it is portrayed as a burden. Migration is portrayed as a burden for the state. And this is a comparative study with different media that represents different markets that we have studied. This is basically a summary of a huge, big study, and we will present it in November. So thank you so much. I am so happy to be here in this place full of wonderful people, and please enjoy these 3 days. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us here in this incredible encounter. This activity is going to be the first one from the public program we will have these days in the afternoons, which are open to everyone. So we appreciate everyone that has come here to join us. And also thank you to everyone who is following us online. We're very pleased to have you here. My name is Duodu. I will be moderating this roundtable. I couldn't be happier to be moderating this powerful roundtable. So please let me introduce our speakers. Is it got to you? Okay. So. Let me start here by Reine Nkiambote. Reine is a multilingual host, moderator, a former journalist who worked in Flemish public broadcast and a regional cross-media news platform. Until recently, she was working as a spoken person for a Belgian politician and political advisor regarding decolonization. Now she produces, and she's also the hoster of a podcast called What's Up with Reine. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Next one, we have Lucía Mbomio. I think all of us, or most of us, know her. She's a journalist. She has been working on TV as a reporter for the past 17 years, filming in more than 30 countries all around the world. She's also an articulist and a novelist. She's the author of novels like Las que se atrevieron or Hija del Camino, which has been bought by Netflix, and we may soon see a series based on this novel. I told you, this is very powerful today here. This is history today here. Okay, we also have Oumaima Abalhaj. She's a correspondent in Spain, Portugal, and Morocco of a Dutch newspaper called NRC. She has also worked during 7 years at a foreign desk in public newspaper, Dutch broadcaster NOS. As a television and radio maker specialized in Spanish and Arabic world. Thank you so much, Oumaima, for joining us. And we also have Gabriela Wiener. She's a journalist from Peru. She's based here in Madrid. She has published lots of books. Some of them wonderful books like Sexografías, 9 Lunas, Huacarretrato, or Dicen de mí. She also writes poems. She actually has a book of poems called Ejercicios para el endurecimiento del espíritu. She was also editor-in-chief on Mary Claire's magazine here in Spain, and she won a national prize of journalism in her country for an investigation related with a gender violence case. And currently she works as a columnist in American and also Spanish media, some like eldiario.es. So yeah, I think that's it. I actually don't need it even to say anything else. I mean, wow. So the topic here today is one thing that we all have in common is that we are women of color, all of us, and we have worked at some point or still are working in mainstream media. So I think it's very nice to have this space to be able to bring together our perspectives and our experiences. So since we don't have much time, let me go straight ahead. So I would ask you, please, to tell me in one word, if it's possible, what is it like, what has it been like to work as women of color in mainstream media? Maybe, Reine, you want to start?
Oh, okay. I would say the word is difficult in general. Why difficult? Because not only do you have to handle the overall crisis in every news redaction, I think, the no budget, no people to do the report that you want to, but then also you have to manage the fact that you're probably the only one or one of the only ones with a migration background. So you're the only one who sees the interest or the importance of the piece that you're pitching, and which can be altogether very tiring as a result for me specifically. I see you're nodding, so that's why it's difficult.
Lucía, do you think the same?
For me, well, I'm going to say to responsibility and to show, to demonstrate. I have the feeling that I have to constantly being validating what we do and the facts that we are in a certain space. And also the responsibility, because in many occasions we are the only ones or one of the few. So responsibility is not only that a lot of people are looking at you, but also open the door so that many more can come in. Because we can't always be the first or the only ones, because it's not fair for those who come after us. And because also we would maintain the media as a very poor space, which is what happens now.
Gabriela, no sé si something you would like to add?
Sí, mientras iban a hablar.
Yes, as you were speaking, I was thinking that precisely I was speaking about quotas, responsibility, struggle, resistance, because they all come together. Because in the beginning, the representation seems everything, but there's a question of justice, of a desire of transformation, of revolution, and that comes with the word demonstration sometimes, because the structures are difficult to change, and this is why resistance is important and makes sense. We have no other option. Would you?
And I want to add patience to it. You need a lot of paciencia to survive. If you don't have that, then you have to quit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we all agree. Yeah. So moving on to the next question. Sometimes when we're in mainstream media, we feel like, in general, it's hard to get to work in mainstream media because of the way it's organized, because of the way they hire new people, etc., etc. So sometimes being in there, we feel like we've broken into the system. So how was the experience for you? How did you get to break into that system and actually get a place in mainstream media?
Okay, me again. Well, how did that go about? I started working for the public broadcast after my internship. So actually, the thing is, I'm someone who's very expressive and outgoing and whatnot.
I can tell.
Yeah. So I already knew from a very young age I wanted to be a journalist. So that was my goal. I studied journalism in Antwerp, and we had these guest lessons. And the person who came to give us a guest lesson was the editor-in-chief of one of the shows at the public broadcast. So, and you know, we were all divided in teams. I'm telling a very long story here. We were all divided in teams, and so my team was one of like the better ones, but not like, we weren't doing something extra, but we were just passionate about what we were doing, and we wanted to do it right and impress him. So, okay, so he noticed us, and after class, I went to talk to him and said, like, do you have internships? Because everyone was saying it's so hard to get into public broadcast, but I didn't want to give up. So I just went and, you know, I just shot my shot, and he said, okay, come over to the redaction, and let's see what you can do. And then I started doing, like, video journalism things in... you know, as an intern. But then, after my internship, that was the hard part, because an internship, that's not even that hard to get in, but then actually doing the job as a full-grown journalist, I had to actually do, because that's what we have in Belgium, we have, what's it called? Diversity contracts, yes. So they have that, which is a good thing. I know a lot of people are against quota and everything else, but I feel like in this moment where we are right now, it's very necessary. So there was a diversity contract that was open. They have like 6 of them a year, which is not a lot. So yeah, I pitched myself and I had to go to the big boss and say why I wanted to do it, blah, 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 blah. And then they agreed that I could do it. So I worked there for a year and then I moved on to regional media.
Wonderful. Oumaima, sorry, you were talking about patience. Did it take patience as well to be able to get in mainstream media?
Well, that was an easy part too for me. Like I was an intern. I started in 2013 at the NOS. It's the biggest organization in the Netherlands. And I won't ever forget the first day. I walked into the newsroom with my hijab, all white. And I was like, what the hell? What did I get myself into? And a colleague even hugged me with, yay, finally, the first one. And that was for me like the sign of, I have a problem here. And it took 4 years before another hijabi came and more people of color, but still we were like a minority. You know, organization was like about 700 people, people of color 10. You can do the math, it's horrible. Yeah.
Like that.
Not the disco yet.
Yeah, so basically it was really hard, especially because I felt the weight of the whole migration, like all the migrants of the Netherlands. I had to be the best. If I wasn't the best, I would fuck it up for everyone else behind me, and they wouldn't get the same opportunity anymore. So that was really hard. And after 7 years, I worked like a long time there. I wanted to get up, like another position, a promotion, but it was difficult with the way I am, the way I look. So I switched companies because of that reason. And I was like, I'm good, I know that, and I don't want to fight anymore. I deserve it, so I'm going to claim it. And that's what I did.
Would you like to add anything else to the fact that we were talking?
Lo que hemos estado hablando.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I started with local media. I come from the periphery of Madrid, and I had no contact with media before. I started in Onda Fuenlabrada, a small radio, and then with different media in Móstoles, Alcorcón, different neighborhoods of Madrid. And it was a time where internet was not like it was now. It seems as if I'm 70, but no, it's true. It wasn't like today that you sent a CV. You used to go directly to the newsroom and went to give your CV. You couldn't, the social media didn't exist, so people couldn't get to know you somewhere else. So I used to send like 300 CVs every day, and finally, in TV, so they got me because they thought, she's really from the neighborhood, and she has an accent from the neighborhood. She's funny. Let's take her. So one thing is to get in, and one thing is to stay there. And this is a different thing, a different issue. I remember it was a TV program. They told me they didn't want me because I didn't look like if I was Spanish. And it was a program where they needed people who spoke languages. And I speak English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. But they didn't want me because I didn't look as if I was from Spain. So you have to always keep on demonstrating everything all the time. Afterward, there was internet, but constantly you have to demonstrate. For example, they offered me to collaborate with kind of more important media after 5 years writing for free in Afrofeminas. I was writing for 7-8 years in Afrofeminas. And then finally, they gave me the opportunity. And, well, also other things. For example, in some media, they treat you as if we were in a Benetton ad and not as if we were journalists that have another point of view. For example, there was a casting in which they always call me the black woman who just left the program. And I was like, are you serious? Are you interested in a perspective beyond a body? It's not about bodies. This is not an ad. It has to do with perspective, with point of view. We can speak about the same things as always is spoken, but with more eyes, with more sources. This is important. We have other perspectives, other experts, and treat information in a different way. So, well, this was my story, basically. In your case, Gabriela? Well, I think one of the reasons to migrate from Peru to Spain was for work, basically. I came as if I was studying, but I was basically going to come to work. I was an eternal intern in different places with this false meritocracy that never ends. And I saw that in the big media, they kept hiring my male friends, non-racialized friends, and I had quite a lot of visibility in a very, very white journal in which I worked in the cultural section, but they didn't hire me. They kept penalizing me. I was always precarious. I wasn't even legitimized. I didn't even have an email with my own name. The situation seemed to be the same all the time. They always said, "Oh, you write really well, but I'm not going to hire you, and I'm not going to pay you the same as I'm going to pay the rest." That is why I decided to migrate as a student. I was around 30 years old, and I had to confront another question: the institutional violence of the migration law. With a visa as a student, I couldn't work as a journalist. So there is where I start a whole story of how to start to work in something that had to do with journalism, which I had done precariously there, as I was saying. And in Spain, I was also the eldest intern. I shared also my salary with my partner, who is also racialized. But thanks to this, we managed to have our documents and to have a regularized situation in 2004. And after many years working as a freelancer, I was working for many media as a collaborator, always as a freelancer, never hired. And suddenly, the director of a white feminine magazine hires me as the chief editor because she liked my perspective. So suddenly, I end up in Marie Claire. And I'm in charge of culture, of literature, of style. And in the time I was there, I was there till I realized that my body would never be shown in that magazine, and that it wasn't an inclusive magazine, because a black woman would be every 2 years in the magazine. So I decided I preferred to be a freelancer, because I didn't want to collaborate with this logic of this type of feminine magazines. It's true that now there are other type of magazines. They're a little bit more diverse, but there's a different interaction with market, with fashion, but we know what their limitations are. So I worked as a freelance again, and one thing that changed my life is that after writing for a long time, I started to do videos, op-eds, like video op-eds. And this is a way to visibilize my opinions with my own body. And this exposed me to a constant harassment about my body that tried to deny my opinions all the time. You could see thousands of comments about my body, which I classify as racism. Racism and male chauvinism, both, all concentrated against me.
Particular stories. They don't sound the easiest, most of them, but this allows us to think and analyze how the system works, especially towards women of color. So we will go back later to some issues, but I would like to talk about what you said before. You said when you got to the newsroom the first time, Oumaima, you felt this weight, the pressure of a whole community on your shoulders. Have you all felt that way? And how do you deal with that?
Well, in my case, it was, I have to do this for the next generation. So I stopped doing it for myself. I started doing it for all those little kids outside. And that's still the reason why I'm doing this, because the payment is shit. The stress is huge. So why would I do that to myself? And I was like, it's for the bigger purpose. It's for the future. And that's actually what is driving me to keep doing this, to make this world a little bit better for our kids, nieces, etc. Yeah, that's it.
Maybe Lucía or Reine?
Pues ella ha dicho.
Well, she said, work in media, you can do whatever they let you do. So in my spare time, in my holidays, what I do is that I do reports to try and show this reality. That's the reality that I see. And as I was saying before, has a lot of more different bodies, other narratives, other perspectives, other points of view. Because what I think it's essential is not to look over your shoulder as a journalist, but to look at people to their eyes. Because especially in TV, journalists have already their own idea, and they don't let reality permeate them. What they do is that they constantly impose their own stereotypes. So what happens? I'm extremely tired. If I go on holiday somewhere, I interview people, I learned to edit, I learned to film, I learned to do everything in order to be able to tell all these narratives, these alternative narratives in which we recognize there is a dominant narrative from white people. And what I did is this regeneration, which I regenerate narration and try and demonstrate and try and show other things. Because in my case, it's something as simple and as big as to show our own existence.
Reine, you've worked also in politics for what we said before in the description. Mm-hmm. So how is it to feel also this pressure that we are talking about in that area?
I mean, my motto is decolonize all day, every day, because it's literally everywhere. You know, I worked in journalism for almost 5 years and then went into politics, and then you see just the same thing. You walk into a room, you're the only person of color. Well, I'm in a very cosmopolitan city, Brussels, so it makes no sense. And the thing is, what I've noticed, especially in Brussels, we have this community of Black, especially female activists, and there's just this sense of tiredness because we've been doing this so long, and the highlight was in 2020, the Black Lives Matter protest after the unfortunate death of George Floyd. And so that, in the political sense, derailed a lot of actions politically because everyone wants to recuperate this politically, of course, for their electorates. But the change is coming very, very slow. We see it in the news redactions, we see it in politics, and that is what makes that people just get tired. I mean, you have to imagine being in these type of spaces, and every single day you have to fight. Even if it's not a physical fight, you're fighting because you have to tell your editor, yes, but this piece is so important because this. And then the time that you're actually spending on explaining him could have been used in something else, you know? And it's the same with politics. If I'm pitching a project, I'm saying this organization needs this money because they're working on this, and then my boss says, yes, but we need that money for something else. And I'm like, yes, okay, but they already have money for 5 years now. It's time for someone else. And it's just that when you're alone, or when you're minorized, actually, you're not a minority, but you are minorized, you stand alone, so you have less power. But if you're multiple people who think more or less the same way or who have the same vision, you can make that change happen a little bit faster, I feel like. So that's why, honestly, my message to everyone here is just to not give up. Take the breather that you need, but then get back out there because the work is not done yet.
Can I add something? Please. I also think, I don't know how it's in Spain, but if it comes to diversity, if you look to like news organizations, it goes like you have the big boss, and under him you have like people. And when they hire us, people of color, we always stay on the bottom. We never get up. And that's why the decisions they make are quite questionable. It's always from a white perspective because we don't sit at the table where they decide about things. And I think that's the biggest problem with the media.
Yeah, exactly.
I would add to what you said, not only in media, but also like all of this, how do you call it, like public bodies that they work to control what public media do. It's like maybe they have been doing like an effort to include like a feminine perspective or even like LGBTQ plus perspective, but they still don't feel the need to push a little harder and also include this racial perspective. So there's also, so if they don't do that, there are no regulation, no policies to try to solve that. So we're like always in this circle where we're on the lowest part, fighting a lot, trying to push the harder we can, but it's like, I'm one person in here. I'm tired of repeating why this is necessary. Yeah. So as you were saying, like, okay, I'll take a breath and I'll come back. Mm-hmm. But it needs to come from higher levels, yes, as you were saying. So there's this one picture I wanted us to see. Not this one. This one. Yeah. Yeah. So I think maybe you've all seen this picture. She's Kaida. She's a journalist in Australia, and she's what she has on her face, on her beard. It's called this area. Chin, yes. That's it, thank you. It's a Maori tattoo. It's from her ethnical origin. So she was the first journalist to work in mainstream, in public media, wearing this tattoo. This is amazing. But where I want to get with this picture is that when we work in media as women of color, especially if our image is exposed, like on TV or on social media, whatever, it feels like everything we do with our image has a meaning. Like if I decide to wear big earrings, who hops, I don't know what's called,
No, I think so, yeah.
earrings, it means something. If I decide to leave my hair out and leave it in an afro, it means something. If I decide to wear, instead of a plain shirt, a shirt with some kind of message, it means something.
It's always exotic. You look so exotic. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm a woman, so there's this, of course, aesthetical pressure, and also I am a woman of color, so there's this additional pressure. So how do you deal with that? Like, if you allow me, I will tell a little story. When I started working on TV, we are preparing this huge, big program. It will start, it will be like the morning show. We are preparing like the makeup for everyone. We have the clothes, we have the pictures. Yeah, you're going to have like this style, this, that. So I go to the makeup room so that they can try the makeup on me and they don't even have makeup for me.
Typical.
And it's like, you know that I'm going to be working here, you know it like a month ago, why haven't you even made the effort to try to find, and this is just an anecdotal, like it's not that huge, I mean, we were able to solve it, but it's just a little example that then it translates to huger, to bigger things. So how do you deal with that pressure? Like, it's like, I don't even know what to do with my hair because there's gonna be, it's an issue.
For me, that right there, it's not the first time that I hear it, and I've been in the same situation. It's a microaggression, and it's really violent actually, because what it says indirectly is that they didn't even think about who you as a person are. They don't see color, whatever that means. Yeah. They're blind, I guess. They don't see you as the woman that you are. You're a black woman, and people should see that. And that comes with a lot of things. That comes with the fact that some images maybe of people dying at the borders might shock you, that you need a special makeup, that sometimes you change your hair 4 times a week, and people shouldn't comment on that. It means a lot of things, and that intersectionality for a lot of people, especially in white spaces, they don't realize that because they never had to question anything that is different from what they know, because the norm is what everyone knows. We know what the norm is. We know them better than they know us, you know? So yeah, how do you deal with that? I'm very violent. I just say, you need to fix this. Yeah. You need to fix this. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yo lo que te contaba hace un momento que
I was saying a moment ago, I write in general, but when I have to speak in a camera, in my video op-ed that I used to do, I do 3 times a week, also now, and the racist aggression was very specific to my color, to my skin color, because every day they tell me that I have to wash, because the brown color of my skin, in a racist perspective, in a structural point of view, it seems like it's dirty. So my apparition there made people told me, go and wash yourself, go and do your hair. And many times what I did was react with, okay, have a brighter light or do my hair, till one day I decided that this is enough. So I started to appear with an absurd hairdos, or to be like crazy, or to dress in a very extravagant fashion, and to play, because we also have to show our own agency in this and respond in a kind of in a self-defense way, in a way that even the media you collaborate with, have to sometimes take care of these aggressions and moderate comments. For example, every certain months, I published the comments that I usually receive, and this provoked a viral response between my sisters, my anti-racist sisters, my feminist sisters, and they are the ones that are speaking out against this cyber harassment that we are suffering all the time, and that sometimes provokes us to leave these spaces. But being in a network and being together is the way that we maintain these spaces together, because what they want is to kick us out. I also want to say that with all this, we are also women, and in TV, they can be very, very demanding with your physical appearance when you're a woman, with your weight, with your age. I'm going to be 41, and they regard me as if I'm old. So I keep thinking, if I stay in TV, I will have to work not as a reporter or as a presenter. I will have to work behind the screens. And this is in media that is completely precarious. So a journalist doesn't have the right to gain weight, doesn't have the right to continue aging. So it's hard. In my case, for example, so I am a black woman. Okay, I'm not very dark, and my hair is not so curly. So with all this, I wear these African fabrics in TV also, and it's an exercise of resistance. Because even if you already see that I'm black, I want to make it clear. This is an example. An uncle who is a doctor here in Badajoz, in Spain, he was watching TV and suddenly he saw me in TV. The doctor who was seeing the TV with him said, with all the beautiful Spanish women that we have, and we have to see this one. So imagine, if you're in TV, you have to be white, you have to be pretty, and you have to be Spanish. And this is outrageous, and this example is quite useful to think how in TV, if you're a woman and if you're racialized, it is an issue.
We need to change. I mean, you've been doing great until now. Thank you. It's been wonderful. But I would like to change the perspective, because we're talking about us, but we are not the problem. The problem is media. So what is it that media needs to, what does media need to understand that diversity and that those places, we belong in those places? What do you think that media right now, how it is, the structures and how they function, how they work, what should happen so that media will understand the need of decolonizing their newsrooms?
A black woman as a chief of editor of the public broadcast, for me.
For example.
Yeah, for example, yeah.
What else do you think?
I just...
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, Gabriela, go ahead, please, yes.
Recuerdo mucho.
I remember once I had to cover this thing a few years ago. It was an accident. I had to cover a train accident in Castelldefels in Barcelona. It was the festivity of San Juan, and many people had to cross a road to go to the beach, and the train crushed them, and they died. Most of them, or all of them, were Latin American. They were young. Even they were very young, they were minors. And they told me I had to cover this. I usually had a column, an opinion column, but this apparently progressive newspaper decided I had to cover this news. Till this moment, I had seen how it was covered in the media, criminalized them. In fact, I wrote a poem that I include in one of my books, that it was terrible, the fact that this stereotype of irresponsible Latin American, suicidal, without culture, no, this dehumanization of these young people is, I think, one of the main problems of media. They don't try and explain the causes, the structural causes of inequality and of racism, but they have instead this regard that without explaining migrations, why migration happened, and that behind all of this there's colonialism and years of exploitation of the global South, and that these adolescents that had these accidents, that died, and they're the sons and daughter of many people who are migrating and that are taking care of your children, of your elders, of your grandparents, that are building the places where you live and having to leave their own children in their countries, and that they are also dying to enjoy life, to have a decent life, the same as you. But media is not telling this. Because even here, there's not even a quota, a diversity quota in newspapers. The other day I was speaking with a journalist and they were saying the biggest newspapers here have one white person covering migration. That usually covers it through the white savior, the self-celebration of their solidarity or victimization. These are usually the points of views, concentrated in black and brown bodies as what is dangerous, what is sad, or what has to be saved by a Spanish person. But what can they tell? They are white people. So what I would ask money, investments, contracts, sources, visibility of racialized and migrant people in order to change narratives, because if not, we're not going to change any narrative. They will continue saying these children suffered this accident because they're responsible, and we will never know what are the roots and the causes of these type of things. We will never know about the massacre that is constantly being suffered by all these people after years of colonization, of exploitation, of wars in the global South, which basically has made European countries rich. And they don't call us for newspapers. They only call us for one news every now and then. So we only serve so that they appear to be solidary. But hire us. Like in Brazil, 50% of the population is black, and who's telling the story of Brazil? White people. It's outrageous. And so here there's so much to do, so much. In the BBC, 20% has to be non-white. So we don't even have to go to Brazil. This is happening here. We don't even have to invent anything. We can copy measures that are happening in other places. There can't be such a huge big distance between the streets and the media that is completely alienated from social reality.
I think she said everything.
Yeah. Actually, you said it great. Gracias, Gabriela. Ha sido maravilloso. Okay. We have been talking about how you have side projects that you do on your own, like a podcast or like interviews. So, keeping with the perspective of focusing in media, I don't know exactly how to ask it because it's quite obvious, but I think we can still get some reflections from it. But why is it that there is this need to create like this side content? Because why is it that media doesn't understand that we need to be there, that we have these stories to tell? I mean, it's something that it's always in my mind, and I think sometimes about the future generations because they come stronger. I think because they have like very clear and very strong ideas, and maybe these side projects that we have will end up becoming like big media or big platforms where we can really find stories about us told by us. Do you see it like this?
Actually, I have to pass on that one because I just work for the mainstream media. I don't have side gigs, no.
Maybe as a podcaster and also as an interviewer, do you think like this is the way we are going on in the future? Like this side projects, these little projects that people are starting, a lot of activists, a lot of organizations. Do you think that those are going to be like the future platforms that people are going to search when it comes to looking for our stories?
Well, I think media are also alibis because of their vision. If I did the reports that I film with my mobile phone, when I see situations that should be told, I would never fit into a media because they would ask me to do something different. Because migrant people are always told as non people, no person. You have to say their name, their story, the why. This, that is profoundly journalistic, doesn't happen with us. The only thing I learned in university is that we have to respond to the different, the who, the how, the what, but they never say what is the who, or the how, or so it's very difficult, in fact. And I understand that there's an agenda. They create these. Bourdieu was saying that the fact that black people are always narrated as eternal people that arrive, that they have to normalize us. They're people that live here, that build. So they're the people that build here, that are living here. But now we're in a different point because there's not the dichotomy between neighbors, or now it is neighbors or enemies. So I understand that behind this there's an agenda, there's a political agenda. It's not going to change because they don't want it to change. There is a narrative of pain, as Moja was saying. It is the only one that humanizes, but from a very asymmetric point of view. Apparently, there's only people that suffer, and which, when you only show people that suffer, you create a social anesthesia against towards these people. And I think this exception that sometimes happen is horrible. It's ugly. We see it sometimes also with gender. How men always have to be heroes, to be the good migrants, they have to save people in Malaga, some girls that are drowning, or in Denia, rescue some people from a fire. They have to be heroes in order to be considered people. But for women, you have to be the mommy of the different of a film. They have to be caring. They have to be sweet, and also the hypersexualization. The other day, I was reading a news that was not speaking about people that migrants. They were speaking about, they are the sons of people from Ecuador, as if there was something in the blood. So if we continue with these narratives that continue all the time, even if other voices like us are claiming for a change, it is because they don't want to change it. Because media are one of the pillars of institutional racism. So there's not much to do. We are always out.
about me. Okay, so we will go with the last question. I've been seeing this last 2 years, a lot of women of color, young women of color studying journalism, doing this final degree works, it's called. So they're actually creating academia, they're creating, hey, I see one there, okay, thank you. So they're creating this knowledge, they're doing interviews, they're collecting data, they're collecting information. So to all of these people that they have this hope, they have this, maybe call it a dream to be in media tomorrow. Is there an advice that you would give them?
Don't give up. Don't give up, because a lot of people will tell you you won't make it as a colored person, but don't give up. Keep going. Because if I listened to that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Yeah.
In your case, Gabriela, is there something?
Gabriela,
Tell them?
Well, I think it's already happening, but to create our own media, communitarian media, collaborative media between different countries, between researchers, writers, between people that work with audiovisual, high-quality journalism that is coordinated, that is anti-racist. And as Lucía was saying, well, we're already out, so let's stay out. And from there, let's produce a narration, let's film other images, and let's create the images from these other places.
I totally agree with Gabriela. I had this whole rant on my Instagram recently about the newsroom and how they should decolonize, because they were speaking about the king. He was in Congo, so they were contacting all the Congolese. All of a sudden, you see 10 Congolese on national TV, never seen them before. And then after the 3rd, which is the Independence Day of Congo, you don't hear from them ever again. You don't see them, which is typical. But as Gabriela said, we need to unify in a way that we empower each other, we empower each other's projects. And as Lucía also said, we're already out. And the hard thing about that is when you're starting your own project, maybe you don't have the financial means, or you don't have, you're not getting paid. I'm not getting paid when I'm doing my podcast. But there are a lot of possibilities with internet, with social media, connecting with people overseas in the same country. So I would just say, don't stay hung up in trying to fit in spaces that don't want you there. If you want to pursue that, do that, but don't let your, how can I say this, your mental health, don't let it be distracted by these, because you're gonna need it. You're gonna need it. So yeah, just do what you want to do. The world is full of possibilities. That's what we're seeing right now. So we live in a very interesting day and age. And I think, to touch upon what you said before, this new generation, and even our parents, I don't know if your parents are on WhatsApp. My parents don't watch national TV. They're on WhatsApp. They're sending each other YouTube videos. So create your YouTube channel, send it to your parents. They're going to send it to everyone in the continent, and people are going to watch, and you're going to do amazing things. So yes, let's just empower each other, because that's what we're doing right now. That's what we're doing right now here. So let's keep doing that.
Wonderful. Lucía, ¿quieres añadir alguna cosita más? Vale. Okay, so we now have like a little 5 minutes or so. So please, if you have any questions you would like to share with us, this is the moment.
Preguntaré en castellano porque...
I'm going to speak in Spanish because my English is not great. Thanks so much for the event. I'm loving it. And I was very inspired to ask this question. What do you think of the figure of editor, of racism in the media? Because, for example, there are women that are gender editors in media. So could we take this model and use it? And also, well, thank you and my profound admiration for all of you.
Answer.
To be honest, I didn't understand the question quite well. Gender what?
So he was saying that some media have this figure of a gender like editor, a woman who tries to cure all the contents that has to do with gender before publishing them. So would it be useful, or how could we do the same thing but with a racial perspective? If it would be like a good thing to copy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if they have it in their redaction, let's start there. If they're not there, yeah. You're not going to hire someone who's not familiar with journalism, or so you need to, you know, that's what they always say. We can't find them. Where are they? Where are the racialized people who are in journalism? We can't find them. But it's not that they can't find them. They're not investing enough for those people to be able to stay in those spaces. Someone said it before, the hard part is not getting in, the hard part is staying in, because you're not only, as I said before as well, you're fighting a lot of battles at the same time, and it's really draining. It's really draining to work 5 out of 7 days and in this tunnel vision that you need to get things out there and battle. You're like Mario, you're playing Mario Kart and it's exhausting. So yeah, they just need to make more means, make like educational things. They can do diversity courses on the redaction, things like that.
Actually,
yeah.
Can I add something to that? Because in the Netherlands we have like diversity programs. They implemented them in the company. But yeah, it stays with that. I think people have to have the feeling of wanting to understand it. And if you don't care, then that's the problem. And I think a lot of people don't care.
Yeah.
And we have to make them care. Yeah.
But a follow-up is very important in those kind of things.
Exactly.
You can't do that for a year or 2 years and then do nothing with it. It has to be a constant. Like, it has to be in your guidelines of your company. It has to be a non-negotiable, actually.
Exactly.
Aquí, por ejemplo, hay comisiones de diversidad donde...
Here we have diversity commissions where only gender is included. They don't think they can speak about other things. And this says a lot about these commissions. And about race, they don't think it's necessary because they don't consider themselves racists. So, for example, I offered myself to train people in different newsrooms, even in progressive media, offering to give free training on race, and they said no. So this is quite significant. Yeah, Lucía had already told me this, and it's terrible. So this maybe has to be obligatory. So, okay, if you are not hiring racialized people, please contract people like Lucía, who's training people in anti-racism, so that they are not racist in their journal. So it's a transversal issue for the whole of the newspaper, as gender is. But of course, there's white is what primes in the different newsrooms, so this doesn't happen. So as I was saying, hire us. Well, hire also people to give formation, to give trainings on anti-racism. To hire one single person to take care of this issue of racism, I think now is epic nearly. It's like, we wish. And the problem is that here in Spain, they don't even think that racism exists. So how can you resolve a problem that they don't believe they have? The racism is the United States, for example. It's not here. It doesn't exist here. It exists in Narnia.
It's not a question. I wanted to tell you what's happening in Italian media, because I don't know how many Italians are here. None? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story.
Spill the tea.
So, the Italian media are very racist. Last year, the Rai, the Italian national TV, used the N-word. N-word, yes. And, I mean, one woman was being interviewed in a program, and on air, she used the N-word without receiving any kind of condemnation. It was like, it makes me very nervous, this story. She was like watching a picture of her, of a young her. She's now like in her 70s. And watching the picture, the interviewer said, "Oh, you were very beautiful." And this woman, this white Italian woman said, "No, I was not beautiful. I look like a nigger." Yeah. Trust me. And nobody said anything. And the interviewer just said, no, you were so pretty. But the interviewer said nothing about the N-word. So, this is the Italian national TV, and this episode happened last year. So me and other racialized people, especially racialized women, such as Imen, that is here with me, decided to meet up. We didn't know each other before that. And people from all over Italy, from Turin, Milan, Rome, we decided to get together online before on WhatsApp groups. And we decided to write a letter to the Italian national TV. We wrote this letter. We were like 100 of people. And we wrote what I'm saying right now. The Italian national TV is racist. You have to do something about it. And we sent this letter to all the journalists in Italy. And all of these journalists answered that we were like, it was not fair what we were doing, and we were like addressing something in a general way that was not nice what we were doing, because it was like a mail bombing. Every day, like hundreds of people were sending the same email to all the newsrooms, to all the Italian journalists, and none of them answering, like supporting us, but just say, no, this is not true, we are not racist. In addition, we organized 3 protests in Turin, Milan, and Rome, in front of the Rai studios, the Rai main buildings. And all the journalists came off the buildings at 6 p.m. when they finished the work, and there were like policemen that they like protect them, but we were not violent. We are not violent people. And the police over there were like standing while these journalists exit their newsrooms and going home. And we were like there protesting with all our voices, and nobody came to us to talk with us. This is the truth about Italian main media. Rai, there is a national broadcaster, TV broadcaster, they have like 5 channels. And we all pay. We are forced to pay because the bill of the Rai is inserted in the electricity bill, so you're forced to pay it. Yeah. And so this is Italy. And we are trying to change things because Italy is very important for the Mediterranean issues of refugees and migrants. We have now, in the last years, we have the right wings of the Italian parties. We have Salvini, we have Meloni, and the situation is very problematic. It's very, very problematic. And the only thing we can do is resist, and we that deal with medias, we are journalists, we are social media managers, we are like social media influencers. We are trying to do something. We are growing, but it's not enough. You were talking about Belgium, but Italy is one of the worst countries to live in when you're a woman, when you're black, when you're a person of color, and the situation is very, very heavy. Nothing, I'm very glad to be here. It's the first time that I see like 5 women of color in a stage. I'm very, very happy, very grateful. And this is a sign of hope. It's a sign of hope. Let's go along. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I always cry, you see. Do we have time for one more? Yeah? Okay, okay. Ooh, super short, please, please, please. One, I see one over there.
Yeah. Yes, you.
Qué presión.
Oh, what a pressure. So hello, thank you so much. I have to be quick. So what would you say to all these young people, even people that want to study communication and journalism, and who in the future see themselves as journalists, or to yourself when you were studying journalism? What would you tell them in order to support them in their process or in their way?
Yeah, actually, I answered it before. Yeah, you need patience, and you don't give up. Look for like-minded people. Like, what helped me was the white people in the newsroom who understand me, and they could speak up if something happened, because people rather listen, unfortunately, to her or him than to me if there's a problem. So find like-minded people and form a group, and stay together and try to fight, because it's necessary. Working as a freelancer is a good thing, so you have your independence, but we need people of color in the mainstream media. Otherwise, they will, I don't want to use the word win. We don't want that, because millions of people are watching the news and read the newspapers. And if we don't represent ourselves there, then we have a problem. So keep going and don't give up. Yeah.
Bueno, que no les voy a decir.
Well, this is nothing new, just that you know you're going to work double than the rest. I'm sorry, but you already know this anyway. Our life is like this. In every aspect of it, we always have to demonstrate double, and they still speak to us about meritocracy. So what I'd say is that with this rage, with this tiredness, but also with this resistance, we have to do anti-racist journalism. There's no other choice. We have to do militant journalism, combative journalism from our perspective, from our voices, and this is going to be a political journalism, a transformative journalism. So you have everything you need. You have everything you need to change things. You are our hope.
I think Sarita wants to share some words.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Sarita Bajnet, and I'm also working here as a confidentiality counselor, as a trust person. And that means that the thing is that I've trained over 17,000 people when it comes to intersectionality, privileges, and anti-racism. And I actually make policy within organizations. And in the Netherlands, you have, sorry, you have, sorry, you have a lot of progressive white people, but then they can't keep people of color within their organization because their internal structures are very toxic. And you have to create a change in the internal structures. But that's not why I grabbed the microphone. I grabbed the microphone because I don't want you to act like a stereotype. There's a stereotype of the strong black woman who's never vulnerable, who never cries, and who's just strong, who keeps on going. But that's not the narrative you need for your good mental health. So what I'm saying to you is, if you have feelings coming up, or you're not feeling okay, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling lonely, you feel like you're struggling, or you're feeling happy, those feelings are valid. Acknowledge your own feelings. Because this is not the narrative you see in the media. Acknowledge your feelings, take them seriously, and talk to me. I'm the confidential counselor. I'm here for you. And we don't have to talk. We can also just hug. Because as people of color, we don't always need words. We don't always need words to connect. We can always have feelings or hug each other, or I can look at you with teary eyes and I understand what's going on. Take yourself seriously starting now. Don't get into a depression or a burnout from racism, because racism will suffer. You will suffer from racism, but it will never be acknowledged. Microaggressions can cause depression and burnout, but we never talk about these consequences. So, I'm here to tell you, I'm here going to be a year within this project as a confidential counselor, and you better contact me because I'm your big sister now. Aww. I'm gonna hunt you, girl, and boys, and non-binaries. And I have an intersectional perspective. That means LGBTIQ, NBs, women, disabilities, also non-visible disabilities that cause a lot of energy. When you suffer from autism or ADHD or dyslexia, it causes a lot of energy. And when you're a person of color, it's never acknowledged because it's always the culture. Take yourself seriously. Yeah, I'm gonna hunt your ass, okay? Okay, I'm Sarita, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarita. We already trust you. Thank you. So this is the end. Thank you so much, Lucía. Thank you, Reine. Thank you, Gabriela. Thank you, Oumaima. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone who has joined us here today. Thank you everyone who is following us on streaming. This has been amazing, an amazing space. We would also like to thank our mates from Zenobia. They are the ones who are making the translation possible. They're doing the magic from up there. So, even though we don't see you, thank you so much. And please feel welcome to tomorrow, and also in the next 2 days we will be doing more activities in the context of decolonizing the newsrooms. And just let's keep doing that, decolonizing the newsrooms. Thank you. So for the participants, please don't leave yet. Wait, and because we have to do a few things before leaving. And for the rest, if you want to hang out around here a little bit more, or if you want to have some drinks and little beverages over there, please feel free. Thank you very much.
Pero a ver, Ofra, ¿de qué tenías tú miedo?